Welcome back to the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. We have another WTF episode coming at you with myself and Becca Lamar. And this episode, we honestly were a little bit, I don't know if nervous is the right word.
I just hope that, I want it to come across from love.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's good. But remember, the whole point of this series is to talk about the things that everybody's kind of thinking
People
and talking
are
about
feeling,
in the background, but nobody's really saying out loud. And so this one, we really want to open a conversation around spirituality and that it doesn't have to fit in a box. And what sparked this, I think it's important to understand the context of what actually sparked this conversation, because I don't know if anybody is, there's been some things going on with Chip and Joanna Gaines, and they had I don't even know the entire story, but they had
a gay couple on
their show.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're Christians.
Yes.
And there was an uproar, right? Like there was and so Chip Gaines had posted this thing. So I'm going to read this off. And I just happened to see it while I was on social. And he said, talk, ask questions, listen, maybe even learn. Too much to ask of modern American Christian culture. Judge first, understand later / never. It's a sad Sunday when non-believers, in quotations, have never been confronted with hate or vitriol until they are introduced to a modern American Christian. And the reason that I wanted to bring this up, and I knew that Becca would talk to me about it, was because I have never found that to be more true. Like, I had never, ever had somebody question my relationship with God except for Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Yeah, I've had quite a lot of interesting experiences, which happen to all be from Christians.
Yes. And so I want to be very clear. This is not a knock on Christianity.
Absolutely not.
Because this is more there is so much out there around what is right or wrong, and it just tends, a lot of it does come from the Christian community.
We send our kids to a Christian school, and it's not even so much about the Christianity itself. It's about the people that label themselves Christians and how they are choosing to treat others.
Yes, and it is so, it's seemingly so ass backwards preface, for anybody who doesn't know, I grew up without a religion. So I never was asked to go to church. And for the longest time in my life, I actually felt really broken because I was like, I'm the only one that doesn't have one of these. Like, why can't I have one? And I sometimes would go to certain things with people, and I always loved listening to a sermon and I married Andrew really young, and his family is Christian, and I loved going to church because I could always pull something from it. But still, nothing ever felt quite right for me, and so I couldn't figure out why. And like I said, for the longest time, I was like, I must be broken because everybody seems to have one of these things, and I don't have one. And I just don't even feel the pull to have one. And now that I'm 36 and I'm realized that it's actually one of the biggest gifts I have ever been given, was like, I feel like this is why, if you believe in this, I'm like, they say that we pick our families. I feel like this is why I picked my family, was because they wouldn't put wouldn't try to box me in.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, I got to experience all these different types of spirituality and all these different things. And I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to look deeper. I'm not afraid to open myself up to all these different things. And I have now built a relationship with God that, I'm obsessed with, and I feel like it is so open and it's so beautiful and it so comes from love. But through that process, I actually I got to dig deep into Christianity. Like I went on a mission, and it actually all started with Mary Magdalene. And I will never, ever, ever forget. I was listening to a book called Mary Magdalene Revealed, and I've never heard something speak to my soul so deeply. And it was just around how there just seems to be something missing in like the modern Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And that something is the feminine. That something is like it's become very, very rigid. And so through all of that, I have done so much research and so many things. And I was like, I actually believe in Christianity for what it was almost before the church got involved.
Yeah. Or even, I mean, I also grew up without a religion. My parents both were raised extremely religious. So it's interesting that they chose to not baptize, or it's not that they didn't show us religion.
Mm-hmm.
They just chose to not make it a priority in our home. But to your point, I think we were exposed to a lot of different people and cultures. And I mean, growing up in Metro Detroit, there's a melting pot of people there. Christianity has been hovering around my life, my entire life. And I don't know if it's my age, if it's the place in life I am, being a parent now, or if it is consistent with social media. There seems to be a shift in the way that people take the label of religion, specifically Christianity, and use it in a very interesting way.
And by interesting.
I mean, my personal experience has been, and this is not from one person, it's been a lot of people who have told me I'm wrong, who have told me I'm going to hell, who have told me when, like, I remember one day saying something like, oh, I feel like the universe is like making this happen for me. And someone telling me, you, Becca, don't say universe, you mean God. And I remember just feeling so taken aback, and then starting to watch how these people were treating me and telling me that I have no values and that I will not go to heaven. And even though I live my life by the same values that they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I want to comment on that because you and I we are speaking, and that was why it was so important for us to do this talk about this topic, is because we are speaking from personal experience. Like I have also, I was told, because because I'm so inclusive and I have worked with people that, like, I welcome literally everybody because I honor every religion. I think that they all, at the end of the day, weave the exact same. Like, if we were to focus on the similarities of religion, and spirituality, we would realize that they boil down to the same values and the same principles, but we don't. We focus on the differences. And because of that, a lot of times I would say, the universe or God or whatever you believe in. And I'll never forget somebody saying, every time you say that, I stop listening.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, that seems like more of a you issue.
And we're talking
than a
about,
me issue.
And I mean, from an outside perspective, all three of those options, universe, God, higher power, any of it, it all means the same thing,
right?
Doesn't it? I mean, to me, it's a word.
It's a word.
It's the word you're choosing to use talking about what's guiding you in life.
Yes, and if the answer is always to come back to God, I don't understand why it's a big, like, who cares what it's called? But I just thought that was such an interesting. So I've been told that. Then I've also been told that I could, like, and people think that what they're saying is coming from love.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they've been taught. And I've actually had multiple people who have had they grew up really Christian, and they've had, let's just say they threw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, because I want to get back to the point that like I actually really believe in Jesus, and I'll tell a story about walking with Jesus. I will never call myself a Christian because it's not what it's about to me. But I've been told, and those people have told me like that have had these, they were like, I would have said all these things to you that I'm about to tell you. And they're not right. Like, it's not okay that like, but this is what we're taught. And I think, and so people have told me, well, I just worry about you. And I just really, like, I love you so much. I just want you to come to heaven with me. And I'm like, well, what about right now? Like, what about this? Or they've told me, you could do so much good if you would just be on like the right path, quote unquote, right path. And I'm
what
like,
is right? I mean,
so what I'm not doing any good. Like what I'm doing now is
I
not a
know,
good
and
thing.
that's where I struggle because I do think I'm a good person. I think I
I
have
also
good
think you're a good
intention.
person.
Thank you. And I try to lead from kindness. We teach that's like very big in our family, um and we have these values that are in line with what a Christian the Christian faith would also teach.
Mhm.
And because I don't decide to carry the title of Christian, I am then deemed evil or bad or
Less than.
yes,
I think the proper word
is
is
less
less
than.
than.
And that people have treated me like I don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. Everyone knows that Christianity exists. It's in our faces.
Yeah.
And you know where to find it and you know where you can learn about it. And to me, and again, my personal experiences, this has been a very prevalent thing in our lives in the last decade specifically. I've been like criticized verbally from people, but it caused me a lot of friction to the point where like if I heard the word God or Jesus, like I would get a physical reaction. Like my heart rate would jump up or my like blood would boil a little bit. You all know that feeling when something happens and you're like, and I started to be like, why am I having this feeling?
Yeah.
Because, and I think it's because I was like trying to rebel so much more than understand. And when I did start trying to learn and listen, do I see the benefits of what the church is teaching? Yes. And I don't think that we need to bully people into following what we're following. Where I personally saw a bigger impact was from a friend of ours who is a devout Christian and accepted me at every phase of my life, who showed me other than telling me how she lived her life. And that I think is the biggest thing I want to like get through in this episode is that people know. People know what's out there. You don't need to tell them. You don't need to say, if only you knew what I knew. We know.
Yeah.
I freaking know. I know what you know. I read the same things you read. And until I'm ready to receive that and make that part of my life, I don't need you telling me that I'm less than you.
Yes. And I do think that there's something there about the superiority. And I think that I actually had this conversation
Sorry,
with.
I'm getting heated.
No, it's okay. Get it out. I had this conversation with
I'm
one
gonna
of the
take a
lifeguards I'm like a 90-year-old that goes swimming at 5 a.m. And so like I'll had this conversation. His name, this is the most ironic thing. Okay. So his nickname is Woo. Okay.
Okay.
Woo. And he's great. But we had the best conversation because it started out by him telling me, we were talking about stress. obviously. And he said, do you think one of the reasons people are so stressed is because they've lost their faith? And I said, 1,000%, I believe that to be true. That people are more stressed. I even love, like, people be like, I'm, such a devout anything. I don't care. Insert spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're a control freak. And I'm like, I don't think you trust as much as you like to think you do, right? Or else you wouldn't have to have that much control. But him and I had this conversation, and he said, well, I think the reason that people are getting off track is because they aren't following the Bible and the biblical things. And I said, I'm going to have to disagree. And because he talked about they're too inclusive. Like, places are becoming, like, churches are becoming too inclusive of all these things. And I said, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I was like, and I'm happy to have this conversation. I said, but if you've never watched it had me in tears one time. I cry a lot. That's what I'm realizing. Like, every story, I'm like, I was crying when Jane Goodall, though. So, the chimp lady, I'll never forget this story because I was watching this documentary on her. And she said so all these things were happening with the chimps. Like, the oil companies were doing, like, these terrible things. They were doing all of these, like, pharmaceutical, like, trials on the chimps because they thought that they were the closest thing to humans, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, she was going in, and I have never, ever in my life, people, I've never convinced somebody of anything by telling them that they're wrong. Right? So, like, and that is what so much of the American Christian is going around telling everybody that they are wrong. And, like, you want to put somebody in instant defense? It's just kind of like you can offer a different perspective, but that's what Jane Goodall is all like. PETA was pissed at her because she was going to these oil companies and she was going to these pharmaceutical companies. And she was going in there and she was seeking to understand. And she was showing them that, hey, like, the chimps aren't as close, like, to humans as you think. And there's a different way. And she was really, and the PETA and everybody's like, I can't believe that you're, like, befriending these people, and just kind of completely wrote her off. But she said, the only way to change someone's mind is to go through their heart. And, like, and so this is the story that I told Wu. I said, so you can sit there and try to convince everybody that, like, the Bible is the only way and this or that. But, like, you telling them that they are wrong and that you are right is not, like, it's not going to work. Like, all you're doing, and it's so the opposite.
Well, and imagine if that was the case here. Instead of just telling somebody they're wrong, what if you did go get coffee with them and you didn't bring up religion at all? Yeah. And you just spent time with them and you shared yourself as a human with them. Mm-hmm. I think that's, like, I'm passionate about, like, how I feel about this. But I think that's summing it up. It's just spend time with the person and show them how you are and why what you believe is the right way.
But what if there isn't a right way?
I know. And to be fair, we've both also experienced the pendulum swing against Christianity.
For sure.
Freaking ayahuasca woo-woo world.
Right.
So that's also, I mean, it's just this when you are so obsessed with, like, a title
or a certain way.
Yes.
It has to be this one thing
in a box where it's like check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. But then, I mean, you watch these people on both sides and it gets a little gray area, but they say, but I'm this title, so I'm okay.
Right.
And
like, it doesn't matter
what
I do.
It's like you're not fitting in the box anyway. So why? Like, it's okay to live in the middle of all of it.
Yeah, and I think to honor all of it. I think I think what happens is when we tie our identity to a certain thing, it stops you from being open. It stops you from seeing the beauty in in all these different things. And again, seeing the similarities, like we're looking for all the differences, but
Right.
you can be completely, you can outsource. Like this is what I would say is that a lot of people end up outsourcing their spirituality to a certain thing. Like I only listen to this book and it's like, okay, but what about your heart, right? Or like I pull cards and I do these different things. Like I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that either. But like I believe that if you let's just say you pull an oracle card, it's really no different than flipping open your Bible and hearing the exact message. Like I believe God speaks to you through any medium. Like wherever you're at, God is going to speak to you through that medium. I think the trouble is that from what I have learned about Jesus, and again, Mary Magdalene, which so many people would have been like, oh my gosh, you're on the wrong path. And I'm like, I think it's very funny that we seem to think what path is correct. And it's like, what if God put them on that path? Like,
I
how do we?
know.
But I think that what I'm trying to get to is that there's a lack of what Jesus stood for. If you really understand and like go through Jesus, what he stood for is so the opposite of what is being portrayed and prevalent and the judgment that is coming from the church. I think that's actually the problem that Christians aren't seeing, is that it's not Christianity. It's that there's this lack of what Jesus stood for, which like I can get down with some Jesus. I think that I'll share that story in a minute. But like, and then everything that I feel like this is what I literally feel like is let's just say he's up in heaven and he's looking down and he's going, what the fuck just happened? Like, I feel like he is like, this is so not what I was trying to do because it's been so misconstrued and it's almost been turned into a weapon instead of what it was meant to be, which is this loving, inclusive thing. Like, I just feel like what he was like, I don't think you guys got the message. That's like what I feel like he's up there saying.
And that's where like I had such like my guard up so hard is because I never understood why somebody who's coming from a religion that is built off of care and kindness and like loving other people could be so harsh and
judgmental.
rude. Yes. And so I was like, you are not kind. You are not living your life by these values. So I don't understand. Like you're not even living the values that you're screaming at me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know it comes from passion and it comes from a good spot, but it's just how it's being shared. And
I think that it's coming from fear. And I think that what like so much of it, what it is, and if you ever read, there's another book, Conversations with God, amazing book, but it talks about how everything at its core comes from love or it comes from fear.
mm-hmm.
And I think that what we misconstrue, what we're taught is loving somebody, which is actually fear. And and there's a lot of that being taught. And I'll never forget that so Andrew and I came off of a family event and religion got brought up and all these things. And I literally went to bed. Like I was like, because something that I've recognized is that when you have a really strong sense of like your faith, and I am devoted to God. Like I wake up every morning and I meditate and I'm always learning and I've read just like I'm devoted to that, but it's not those things that matter. It's that like I literally walk through my day in prayer and in like I don't need to go to a church for that. I don't need to have a book by my side to do that. I don't need to have oracle cards or crystals to do that. It's just part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But so like in this moment, I was like, I'm just going to go to bed because I don't feel as if I don't need to say anything. I don't need to prove anything. I just like, this isn't my talk to be had.
Right.
But the next morning, Andrew and I were driving home and he talked about how, again, people are worried about me. And like and I just started crying, and he's like, and he was really sweet, and he said, what if Stacy was like, and I believe that we all have things that we can learn from one another, but he's like, what if she's like, her message and the way that she thinks about spirituality is actually something that could be learned from, and it's not like, what if she was sent by God, like, which I think we're all sent by God. But he was like very sweet in that moment, but I just started crying. Here we go. I was crying. And because I was like, I'm so sick and tired of people telling me that like I'm not enough because, and like the things that I'm doing don't matter. And the fact that like I help people, like none of it matters because I don't fit in this one box that they would like me to fit into.
Right.
And so this is actually really funny. So I said, I need you to make me like a promise. And he said, okay, what? And I was like, don't let me close my heart. Because like I know where, like I know I'm not harming anybody, and I know that I'm doing good things.
Mm-hmm.
And so Andrew being so like practical and being a guy, right? He was like, well, what do I do? Like what happens if I see that? And I was like, and I said, I said, this is gonna sound funny. I said, but I want you to ask me, what would Jesus do? I said, because at the end of the day, like he stood for, in my interpretation, Jesus is unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And unconditional love does not say if. It doesn't say if only you fit this mold. It like unconditional love is always. Like I love you regardless of what you believe, regardless of how much you do in a day, regardless if you question the system in some way,
Mm-hmm.
shape, or form. He doesn't say it. Like unconditional love is not if. It's not if you follow, if you fit this exact mold, if you do everything that I tell you to do. That is all fear-based. Love says be everything that you are, and I love you always. So that's always been just like that's to me what we should stand for. And that's to me what Jesus stands for from all of my research and the different things that I have read and all of that. Like that's who Jesus is to me. And I can get down with that. But I believe that Jesus, like I want to walk hand by hand. Like I want him to walk by my side. I don't see him as a savior. I don't think he was ever trying to be that. I honestly think that he was like, walk with me. Let me show you what unconditional love means. And I think we have gotten so far off track. But I think every enlightened being that ever walked the planet was trying to say that exact same thing. Like Buddha, all, you know what I mean? Like I believe that it was all the same thing. It was at the end of the day, it was, can we walk together in love for one another, despite our differences, despite all of these different things? Can we let love lead the way? But as humans, we are so afraid of everything, and things that we fear, we put rules around, and we start like putting them in. We have to fit everything into a box because that's what makes us feel safe. And we have to say this is wrong and this is right. Well, you guys, I don't care. Like murder is wrong most of the time, but sometimes like if it was self-defense and you killed somebody, like is it wrong or was it right? I think life is gray. Life is so freaking gray. And what's right in one situation is wrong in another. And what is wrong in one situation is right in another.
Right. And I think that kind of like another like question I have, I guess, for the church is obviously like the, I don't know like the right term to use. Like some churches are more homophobic than others and some are inclusive, and that's like a big focus right now, I think. And at a church near us, like there is a pastor who is well known to have had an affair. And so it's like, why is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to the like, how can we love people for sins some sins, but not all sins.
Yeah, like it's almost like it is. It just depends. I feel like there's like does it fit the rules that I need it to fit, or
Well, and it goes
does
back to
it
being
not?
comfortable. I think that's something we talk about a lot, but it's comfortable for them. And you and I have talked about this. It's hard to comment on something when you haven't lived it.
Yeah. Yeah, like when it's something that you've never experienced, or I think that things in life are very black and white until you've experienced it. And then all of a sudden there's a lot more gray. So if you are somebody who has never experienced having let's just say that you've never experienced having a gay like son or daughter, it's going to be really black and white as to what you should and shouldn't do until you're in it, until you are like, oh my gosh, this is not as black and white as I thought. It's like somebody who has never been through any type of affair or any type of like infidelity. Until you walk that path, it's like, well, I would never. Well, duh, because you've never been in it. And so it seems so simple. But it's not that simple. Like when you're in the middle of things, it's like, okay, there's a lot more gray here than I thought there was.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that is and there's the essence of, are we exposing ourselves? I think it's so healthy to expose ourselves to different. I think sometimes we keep our circles too small. Right? And so I think that's something that, are we actively, going back to the point you were just making, are we actively going out and talking and exposing ourselves to different religions, different cultures, different people who do things different, and seeing that like maybe we're not actually so different? And I'll never forget that I have a tattoo on my left side from a Tibetan monk. And so I got the gift of being able to spend like a week with this Tibetan monk named Lamar. And I'll never forget how like he was so lighthearted. And I don't identify with any religion. And what I loved about how Lamatashi walked through the world is, I would ask questions because I'm like, what do you guys believe in? Like, tell me about this reincarnation thing. And he'd be like, oh, let's talk about that. And then he would give me like really fun things that he said something that stuck out to me. And he said, he was talking about dogs. And he said, we believe that dogs are next in line to be human in like their next life, because, this I think is so cool. He said, because they understand what it is to be completely devoted to something bigger than them.
Oh, that's so true.
Which, is that not what like every religion comes down to, is being completely devoted to God's path for you? And I was like, okay, that's the sweetest thing ever. And then Cooper died. I was like, he's going to be a human.
I know, our dog's like about to die. And I'm like, oh, we've been so mean to him.
Yeah. I'm like, but he's going to be a little human, because like, but they understand the concept of what that means. And I just thought that was beautiful. But I got to spend days with him. And the thing that really stuck out was, and Andrew and I both said this at one point, I said, man, if I was going to choose a religion, like, gosh, it'd probably be this one, because he would say, he's like, whatever you believe in. He was happy to share stuff with you, but he just like saw you as a human, and we laughed and we didn't take anything too serious, and he never told you that you were wrong. And he was just like, I'm happy to share with you what we believe, but also like I 100% honor anything that you believe. Yeah. And it was just, it was beautiful.
I wonder if I'd be curious to know if that is like the standard in that religion. So was he Buddhist or Hindu?
Buddhist.
Yeah. Like, is that the standard? Or because I think those people exist in every religion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like when you were just saying that, I was thinking when we had our last baby last year, one of the midwives that was there was Muslim, and she was the kindest. Like, she prayed for us and she did her thing, and I just had I felt so much like care from her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's like good and bad in both. There's people that struggle to show their love in every religion, and
Yes.
there's people that can show us unconditional love also in every religion.
In every religion. And I think that's the thing, is that I just know that for me, when my relationship with God grew the strongest, it was when I stopped believing and stopped thinking that it had to show up in a certain way, that there was a right and a wrong. And I'm like, you know what? I think at the end of the day, whether it be Jesus, whether it be Buddha, whether it be like whoever, I think they'd be proud of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they would be okay. Like, they would be like, you're doing a good job.
Well, and I just said this to you the other day, because I mean, we don't go to church. We're very busy, and unfortunately, that's just not where we're at right now. Not to say we won't ever, but my friend's grandma came up to my husband and said, "Patrick, I want you to know that you and Becca are going to heaven. God sees you, and you're going to heaven." And I said to him later, I was like, "Do you ever think that when you hear something random like that, what if that was God talking to us and like showing us that, okay, even though we aren't going to church and we're not labeling ourselves the way that people want us to label ourselves, we're still okay. We're still doing good. We're okay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's two things that I think I want to comment on, because one of the things, Andrew grew up in a very Christian family, and well, actually there's three things. So one is he could never understand, and I think that this is kind of a cool. So he was like, I don't understand how we can say that, because I was born into a Christian family who went to church and did all the things that, like, and I was a good person, but somebody else in India, right? They grew up in a wonderful family with a different religion, and they're doomed and I got lucky. Like, but they're great, amazing people. Like, help me understand how that makes any sense. And I was like, good point. And to top that off, well, there's two things. Is then I met somebody who actually went through, they went to school for, like, what's it called? Oh my gosh. What's the word?
To be a pastor?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what the school's called.
I do know, but now I can't think of it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. And they were like, you have to understand that we weren't taught about other religions.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught how to say that they're wrong and we're right. Based, like, so somebody can have an argument about, like, well, this is this and this, and they know how to negate it. But they're not actually taught about the full spectrum and they're not taught to honor other religions. They're taught how to be like, that's not right. And I just thought that was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, like, we need to take a look at that. We need to look and say that maybe we're not right. Like, God forbid we are like, maybe we don't know everything that there is to know. So if there's a book that I read that I would recommend, well, I'll give a couple book recommendations at the end of the podcast, but it's called The Book of Joy. And The Book of Joy is the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu, who has since passed, but obviously coming from two different religions, they are like best buddies, and they come together to talk about joy and and they are so, like, they're so inclusive of one another, and they are open to each other's, like, different perspectives and these different ways that they do something. And I'll never forget the thing that stood out to me the most about this book, and I don't have the exact quote, but essentially Archbishop Tutu is like I think you'd be surprised who you're going to find in heaven. God's standards are really low. I think that because it was like
I know we looked it
that
up.
was one of them.
Yeah.
But the other one was he was like, you cannot tell me that the Dalai Lama, who has done so much good in this world, who is like doing all these things, that he's not going to be in heaven with me just because he happens to identify with a different religion than I do. Like, he's like, I can't get behind that. And I just think there's something to learn here around, like, at the end of the day, again, we're all like, what if we just saw everybody through the lens of like, we're all flawed, we all have weaknesses, and we all have something to offer.
Yeah, and what can we learn from each other?
Yes. Anybody. Understanding that we all have flaws, but we all have something to offer. And like, what if we went through the world looking for what people had to offer and looking for what can we learn from this person and how can it expand our horizons, instead of being so afraid that somebody might not agree with you, or they might it might make you question. Anytime that I have ever questioned religion or questioned spirituality, or like, it has only made me grow stronger in my faith. And we're so afraid to question it. And I think a lot of that, and I don't know because I didn't grow up in this culture, so I can't tell you, but from what I've heard from other people, a lot of it is that you're told that questioning is wrong.
Yeah. So we're kind of in an interesting spot right now because our oldest daughter is going to school, and we have a lot of friends who are choosing to send their children to private school. And we honestly can't make a decision, to be completely honest, because I don't feel comfortable in any scenario. And these boxes, there's like, school feels like a box, and I don't feel comfortable sending my child somewhere that will force them, to not allow them to question things. And that's what I think my biggest struggle is with, like, choosing a private school or a Christian-based school or even a public school. The fact that these kids at such a young age are taught that there is one right way. I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I know. And I think that is a big, I don't know. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle, is just that, like, maybe there isn't one way. And what if we just stopped trying to force everybody down this one way and just looked at it different and said, like, how, like, maybe I don't know what's best for you. And if all of us at the end of the day are supposed to be is supposed to believe that God has a path for us, well, can you trust that path is like that is their path, and that you don't know better, but maybe they know exactly where they're supposed to be.
I agree with that. I said that all the time. I would say, if you truly believe in God, then you should trust that I will find it when it's time. And this is kind of an interesting story. I don't know if I ever told you this. So when my dad had cancer, and when he was dying, essentially, so my dad, backstory really quick, he grew up in the hills of Pennsylvania, and he was raised extremely religious. It's like some type of Baptist, like, to the extreme.
Yeah.
And he would always say things like, "Oh my gosh, if my grandma ever saw you, she would, like, roll over in her grave," and all of this stuff. So then fast forward, like, we didn't really do religion growing up. And when he was sick, and he was a good person, like, generally. I mean, we're all
we're all flawed. Yeah.
But at the, like, a couple days before he passed away, he got baptized. And I think about that a lot, because I think about it in, like, I question everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, was it because
He's like,
You-
just in case.
literally, well, like for real, was it out of fear, and was it like, wow, just in case I totally mess this up, I need to get this done? Or is it because he truly saw something? And like
Mhm.
that's why I think like I'll know when I know.
Yeah.
You know, or I'll get to the end and be like, fuck, I gotta
You're like,
get
dunk
this
me
done.
in just in case this is a thing. Let me just like double down on this
And yeah,
particular
I've like
thing.
said that story too to like our Christian friends, and they're like, "What? Don't you like see that as a reason to do it?" I'm like, "No, I actually see that as like he lived his life how he wanted to live it,
Mhm.
and then who know? We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened after,
Right.
But I don't know. I feel him around sometimes, so he's
Yeah.
somewhere.
And I think that's the thing, is that we like to think that we're so certain,
Yeah.
and it's all made up. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, so much of this stuff is, I mean, like if you look at Christianity, there's so many different denominations. And like one of them was created because like one of the kings wanted more than one wife. Like, I'm sorry, but we have to understand the history of some of the things that have been created.
Right.
And even the history of, because again, we're taught not to question. And it's so interesting because somebody, I think it was actually in Conversations with God, he says, not giving somebody the entire story and only giving them part of the story is politics, not history.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I have learned so much that there's a lot of people who don't understand that even the Bible that we read today was a bunch of men came together in a room and decided what stories were going to go in it and which ones were going to be left out. And then they tried to destroy everything that didn't fit the narrative. Because there were so many different types of gospels. There's the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. There's the Gospel of Thomas, and those were all. They're now considered Gnostic Gospels, which means like that God is within you. But they would have never been labeled that back when they were actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was just another. They were just different, right? And so those are now being discovered in like Nag Hammadi. They're because I don't know if it was the monks. I might get the story wrong, so don't like fact check me. But they wouldn't destroy them. They buried them. And now they're all coming to the surface. Curious timing, I think. And a lot of it is like bringing more of that feminine nature into it and this different perspective from Mary Magdalene. But if you read so people don't understand, even like the most devout of people think that this book dropped from heaven. Like, I'm not sure what, like, they're like, and I'm like, no, they're still stories. Like, at the end of the day, Jesus didn't write this book. Like, he did not, God did not write this book. It is a book that was written. And there's one of the books that I would recommend to anybody wanting to dive deeper into this is called the New Testament. And what this book is based on is they got a bunch of spiritual leaders in a room and said, with all of these new things that they're discovering, they were like, you can't understand what's in the Bible if you don't understand what's been left out. That's their whole premise. And they help you to understand that even the stories that are in there were not written by John didn't write it. And so, and it's just kind of helpful to understand that like this is not the end all be all. None of it is the end all be all. But my God, you guys, if we could just see how similar the principles are and the values are, and if we could just love each other for being and like not seeing like, oh, you're not this thing, so I'm going to treat you different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just feel like, my goodness, like, can we all just come together in love? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what every religion is trying to bring us to. That's what Jesus was trying to bring us to. That's what God is trying to bring us to, is come back to love. And we are operating from so much fear. And anything that we fear, we give power to. And it's just amazing how that is transpiring in the world. And it's like, the more I've questioned and the more that I've opened myself up to these different modalities and these different things, and I'm like, I've never felt a stronger connection to God and my faith and all of that. And I'm so grateful for it. But I can also see people through the lens of like, I honor what you believe too.
Mm-hmm.
I honor all of it. I just choose not to fit into one specific box because to me, it's not that simple.
Yeah, I agree. And as someone who's like kind of coming out the other side of hating religion, I think it is. It's just like this whole episode and our reason is just to ask people to take a second before you respond.
Mm-hmm. And I think we as humans have a negativity bias. It's just true. So we look for the flaws. We look for what's wrong about things. And what if, as something I work with a lot of clients on, what if we looked for what's good about
Mm-hmm.
things, what we admire about people? So I think if we go back to how do we work this muscle, is what if you, one, my challenge to you would be to text 3 people something that you admire about them. Like, start looking for the good in people. Start looking. I believe people are good. Like, I just do. And you know what? Life has not. Have I had my struggles? Have I had things? Absolutely. Do I know that there is evil in the world? Yes, but I don't believe that people are inherently bad. I think that people are actually inherently good. And when they're not acting that way, they're not okay. That's what I see, right? So it's like, can we start to see and admire and tell people what we admire about them? Can we start to, and like, what if every single person you met, or even if you looked at people through a new lens? What is that Andy Grammer song, Fresh Eyes? That's what I think
yeah.
of it. We'll have to like play it. It's like, but it's like, what if you, even the people you know the most, what if you could see them through the lens of, what can I learn from you? And what if there was no superiority?
Well, and what, instead of thinking, how can I help them, think, how can I show them?
Yeah, like walk your talk.
Yeah.
And don't, telling people never goes well. I've never told somebody something and been like, you need to act like this, and then been like, great, let me go ahead and do that. I believe in walking your talk. If just action
unless
speaks
they're
so much.
asking for it. If someone's asking, then yeah, talk to them about it. But
Sure.
to just tell them they need Jesus, like, there's another way.
Yes. It's like, again, why don't we go back to, what would Jesus do? Jesus wouldn't be like, you need me. Like, I'm just like,
you need me.
you need me. He's like, tell me more. Talk to
Right.
me. Let me welcome you into my arms. Let me make you feel safe. Let me, like, he stood for the outcasts and the people who felt rejected and felt like there was nowhere to turn. And so but he didn't go around being like, you clearly need my help. Like, it just, I don't know. I just think there's something to learn there. But if we looked at it from that lens of, nobody is superior to one another. Like, nobody's also inferior to one another. I have a mentor who used to say, like, when we have a really strong solar plexus, which is like where our confidence is, it is, we honor all and bow to none. Like, there is no superiority. There's no inferiority. Like, it's just, we're all on this level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
We all have flaws. We all have something to offer. And what if we could actively look for what people have to offer and the lessons that they can teach us, and that we can see that when somebody bothers us and when somebody's doing something that we don't agree with, can we just see them as challenging our current way of looking at things? And maybe they're not always the one that needs to change. Maybe there's an acceptance that needs to happen. And you're so harsh on yourself, so you're really harsh on other people. And I think that's like a whole nother episode. But when we're really judgmental and critical of ourselves, that bleeds over into our relationship with other people. And so how can we become more accepting of the fact, like, I don't know everything, and I'm okay that I'm imperfect. And then I'm going to be okay that you are, but also I know I have things to offer this world. And I just think it's really important for us to look through that lens. Like, everyone can teach us something. And doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything that they believe, but there is something that you can learn from every single person. So
I feel like that's a great ending.
perfect.
Yeah.
So if you want some book recommendations, we'll link these up in the episode. But the Book of Joy, amazing. The New Testament, amazing. Conversations with God, it was a really profound book for me. And I'm only talking from my own experience, but the Mary Magdalene Revealed, I think they're like, if you want book recommendations, let me know. If you want to open yourself up to some different perspectives, let me know. But those were some that have changed my life and really allowed me to see things through a lot of different lenses. So that is all we have for you on this episode. I hope you were able to see our heart through this one, and it took some coercing for us to be
And
able
some
to
wine.
yeah, and a little bit of wine for us to get this one out. But I think it's an important conversation to be had, and I want to open up more conversations around this because I don't know everything, and I don't claim to, and I can only speak from my experience of what I've gone through, and I know that you've been through some different things as well, and so I think that's where we'll end it. So until next time, be bold, be unapologetic, and be you.